You will on.
Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to today's hearing for Bamboo Lounge. My name is Councillor Munir Ahmed, and I shall be chairing the meeting. My colleagues, Councillor Amajid Jammu, Councillor Rima Baklini, and I comprise today's subcommittee. Hatun Zeb is the legal advisor to subcommittee. Zaina Ahmed is the Democratic Service Officer, who is the clerk to the subcommittee and who will be minuting the meeting. Before I introduce the report, I would like to ask everyone attending to introduce themselves, please. Yusuf, can you start introducing yourself and with your name, please?
Yes, my name is Yusuf Al-Hani. I'm appearing as the representative on behalf of Mr. Hadi, who's a prospective premises license holder.
Okay. Hadi, you want to speak and introduce yourself again?
Hi, my name is Mr. Hassan Hadi. I am the owner of the 823 Western Road, and thank you for your time together.
Matthias?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mateusz, and I'm a noise and nuisance officer looking after Acton area.
Thank you. Okay, you will all have received or seen the agenda pack within which is contained the licensing officer's report with details of the application in section 1. To confirm, we are dealing with the new premises license application in relation to Bamboo Lounge, 823 Western Road, Park Royal, NW10 7LT. We note the following representations objecting to the application have been received. One representation has been received from a pollution control team, and the subcommittee have read the objector's submission in the agenda and will take it into consideration when making the decision. In accordance with the procedures, I shall invite the applicant to present the application, answer any questions, and call any witnesses, and then invite those who have made representations to make their representations, answer any questions, and call any witnesses. Then I will be asking the responsible authority who have made the representation to sum up the case, and finally I'll ask the applicant to sum it up. At the conclusion of the hearing, the subcommittee, accompanied by the legal advisor and the committee democratic service officer, will retire to consider its decision. The decision will be given at the end of the meeting, approximately around 1:30, and confirmed in writing forthwith. If the panel cannot reach a decision today, you will be notified in writing within 5 working days of the panel's decision. So I'm going to start by asking the applicant to present the report.
I'm grateful, Councillor Ahmed, in respect of the application that's before it. Before the subcommittee today. It's an application that was put in for the concerned premises and for the address of 823 Western Road, and that is in the Park Royal area. The application really concerned 2 licensable activities, one being the provision of hot food and one being live amplified recorded music. Or performances of dance from each with their time that's available on pages 5 and 6 of the application pack. The application underwent its consultation period, and the responsible authority that is represented today are the only objection that have been put in place in relation to the premises license not being granted. I understand it's represented, the concerned team is represented by the author of the objection as well, Mr. Crook, and it in relation to the licensing objectives, as far as from what I've understood, public nuisance. And in that, there are several aspects to it. The reason why I'm concentrating really just on public nuisance is because the police, health and safety, environment, or the licensing departments haven't put in an objection, and there's been no objection from the public whatsoever. So really the only objection that had prevented the license being granted in full was the one from pollution control. The objection really relates to licensable activities and the concerns for the local resident, and namely the hospital that has also been referenced. I don't want to misportray the report that has been presented in any way, but that is my understanding. It also relates to a visit, a proactive inspection that was conducted on the 13th of September. I have taken instruction from Mr. Hardy of what happened that day, and I've asked him, well, was it a day where noise pollution, the pollution control team came, inspected it, wanted to see your amplified setup, or the sound system, which is quite routine in a lot of premises. He informed me that there was a visit from a different department, but there has been no specific complaints that he had received. It's not one that he has been asked to clarify. He's not had a visit from the noise pollution team to say, well, we would like to see what systems you have in place. Now, since the application has gone in, the applicant has become he is quite a proactive applicant, and he's one that seeks to work with the local authority, namely that there is a sound limiter that is in place, and it is, I submit, to be a substantial investment into any premises. I'm not sure how deep my explanation of how a sound limiter needs to be. Essentially, the way it works is that wherever the complaint seems to be radiating, so this one is saying 100 meters or 160 meters from the closest resident. So if the pollution control team are saying that from 160 meters, noise can be heard, you would set the sound limiter so that it doesn't create a nuisance. It's not simply the fact that noise can be heard, it's that the noise needs to create a nuisance. Now, in the representation that has been put forward, or in the allowance for putting an extra piece of evidence, there hasn't been any evidence that has been submitted. There hasn't been, for example, a recorded history of the complaints. There hasn't been a recorded history of the licensing breaches, because this premises didn't have a license. It's the first time it seeks to be put in, and I submit to the committee the main advantage of having a license is to ensure that the licensing objectives can be met, and that really is the consideration. And if the single concern of the bench today is whether the licensing objective of public nuisance can be controlled, I would quite simply put that there is two conditions that can be placed. One condition is to allow for the local pollution control team, noise pollution control team, to come in and set the sound limiter. And the way it works is that anything that is attempted to be played above this would simply be cut off. And what it really does, it allows a degree of control for the pollution control team. It allows for the subcommittee bench today to be assured that it is following and making sure that the licensing objectives are met. And what it really does, it places a responsibility on Mr. Hardy as part of his licensing conditions that he follows this. And if he doesn't follow the sound limiter being placed, he's at risk of losing a license, which is quite substantial. There are some other submissions that I do want to make. The 2 or 3 being the main. Number one, this is a premises that is not seeking now or in the future to ever include the sale of alcohol. There is no sale of alcohol that is being proposed. It is simply for regulated entertainment and hot food. Now, in respect of the representations I know the objection mentions the local residents and the hospital. There have been no objections that have been put in either by the hospital or by the local residents. That is simply not the case. And more so from that, had there been the case that the local residents would have been objecting, one would be able to plainly see that it does create a nuisance, but that simply isn't true. I further note that the distances involved are somewhat substantial. One is 1/4 of a kilometer away, and the other one is 160 meters away. The objection also does not take into account as to how has these measurements been reached? How have, for example, vibration caused in a patrol car parked 100 meters away? Where is, for example, what device have they used to ensure that it's irradiating from that place? It should also be noted that in that road, Coronation Road alone, there are other premises that have been granted a license. They've been granted a license that include the regulated entertainment being played. Elite and Shiva are two premises of sizable comparison that have been granted their license. From what I've understood, or from what I've gathered, both have had similar noise regulated entertainment provisions that have been allowed to them. And they are, Elite is far closer to a block of resident flats. There hasn't been any objection from the public in that one, and that license was granted. And there needs to be uniformity in the fact or in the way that the subcommittee do grant it. If there has been a substantiated complaint that has been reached, then I would accept that. And if an objection has been placed by a local member of residence, we would hear from them. But the reality is, this is a premises that is not close to, apologies, and there appears to be a hand up from
Ms. Zeb, you want to come in at this stage?
Yes, Chair, I just wanted to make the point that Mr. Alhani is inviting you to have a need for uniformity. There's no such concept in licensing subcommittee decisions to have uniformity. Your role today in regards to this committee meeting is to deal with the application at hand based on the evidence that you have in relation to this premises only, and any objections that you have before you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Zeb. That's very helpful. The clarification has been noted.
I'm grateful. I didn't seek to make it to portray it as a binding principle like the licensing objectives. That wasn't my intention. Just the fact that there is a similar premises that has been granted a license condition. Those licenses have been breached. They simply is a fact that license conditions can exist. Apologies. I think Mr. Hardy also has raised a hand.
No, you carry on. We'll come to him later.
I'm grateful. In respect of this premises, the initial submissions that are being made, and I do seek to question the representative from the responsible authority, is the fact that this is a premises that, for the purposes of planning, for example, is in a cellar and is able to operate without any control on noise due to the planning development within the area. I understand that's not a licensing principle per se, but to be quite frank, it is reflective as to where the premises is. It's not near residence. It's 1/4 of a kilometer from the car park of the hospital, not from the hospital building itself. And none of the representations have gone in from any of the concerned parties. This is also a premises that have had no other responsible authorities objecting at all. So I would put to the bench to consider, and I'll put the same to the representative for the local authority. This is a premises that does not seek to have alcohol, that have had really no objections besides one, and should be given a chance to conduct business with the appropriate conditions being placed. And that condition, quite simply, and has been accepted by other premises, such as Al Shorfa on St. Leonard's Road, to have a sound limiter to be placed in, amplified regulated entertainment to be granted. And the only real consideration for the bench today, I would submit, is to whether the conditions can exist to allow for a premises license to be granted. And I would submit that the conditions do exist.
Okay.
If you'd like, I can put questions to the applicant, but I believe he does have a comment that he does want to make.
We'll come to that. If I heard it correctly, you said the committee can impose two conditions. One is the sound limiter, set the sound limiter, but you didn't tell the second one. So I don't know.
Apologies. It's quite a standard conditions, but it's kind of two parts really. One is for the applicant's phone number to be granted, so that when there is a noise complaint, anybody who seeks to can contact the applicant directly. The reality is a sound limiter can be checked at any time, because if it's made as part of the license conditions, the licensing team or the noise pollution control team can come in, make sure that the sound limiter is in place. And if he doesn't follow the sound limiter, he has directly breached the license condition. That it's a substantial investment to make, but it's one that Mr. Hardy was prepared to do and has done.
Okay, you want to bring Mr. Hardy in if you want to add anything?
Yes, Mr. Hardy.
Hi. For the noise and these things, we have companies exactly behind me. They are about 15 meters. One of the company is butcher and these things. This kind of work, they need someone to sit in the work for watch the degree, the temperature. So there is people in this building 24 hours, either to watch or to do their jobs in the day. We don't have a problem with them. We don't have any noise problem with them. From 2021, I believe, or 20, we do some refurbish, and the owner, he said there is noise, and after this, I show him everything, and he come to the inquiry by himself to tell the inquiry there is no noise, there is no problem. And our place, we don't want to bring, like, to make it as a nightclub. It's more than community place, more like that for the Ahwazi community, Afghani, most of the Middle Eastern, they come to Bamboo to have their celebration or funeral or wedding. Even sometimes they come to sit and enjoy, because they will not pay for banquet or something. They just sit and eat and enjoy. We are not a nightclub. We didn't have any antisocial behavior in our road. I believe Western Road is one of the cleanest road in all Ealing area, because we don't allow people to do any antisocial here, and there is always security from our side and from ASDA side. So ASDA protecting the other side from the road, so there is no any problem inside Western Road, and you can check the police record, check council record. There is no any problem in Western Road. Yes, there is antisocial happen in ASDA car park. There is gathering for people who do raving in the car engine and these things. We complain, ASDA complain, and I think the police start to act about this, but that's not anything with us. It's big two groups. They do it in many of places in London, and especially in ASDA car park. Thank you for giving me this time, sir.
Okay, yeah.
I'm grateful. Thank you, Councillor Ahmed, for hearing the applicant. And I think really the summation of what he's saying is that the quite large and substantial businesses around him haven't put in any complaints, and they're ASDA, just by way of reference, is literally across the sub road from them. A complaint hasn't been put in, and in terms of the antisocial behaviour, instance within the representation, the local the local police force and the police licensing officer hasn't put in any representations. The reality is there's a very robust operating schedule, a very large commitment to security. The committee can impose a hourly reading, like from what I've seen on other premises, to say that, well, you need to get a sound device to check every hour, is the sound okay, is the sound not okay? And essentially, the point that's being made is that for a place that has had no objections for antisocial behavior, no objections from any other department besides one, that one department can be satisfied and is being invited to, through these conditions, and they are quite stringent conditions, and they take investment, but it allows the councillors and the residents that they represent to be assured that there's a proactive engagement with that business.
Okay, thank you. Are you done with your submission?
I'm grateful, thank you. It was just a reserve. If possible, I could ask the representative when he presents his objective.
Sure, thank you. Before I go to the questions, I have a question, so I'll start with that.
Yes.
Before I ask the responsible authority to start. You have said in your application that you are seeking license for recorded music. It's all indoors, performance of dance, late night refreshment, and then provision of anything of a similar description to live music, recorded music, or performance of dance. What does that mean?
So similarly would be, for example, where you have a live singer, that would be through the amplified music. But then sometimes it's a mix of what would be purely live music or recorded amplified music.
My computer might restart. If it does, then I will have to disappear. Zeno, I don't know, it's telling me, but I'm trying to stop it. But if it does, then so be it. Okay, carry on.
I'm grateful. I don't think the applicant would be minded if it requires a short adjournment for 5-10 minutes to allow
Well,
for
we'll
that
see if for my computer or
I mean, for your purposes, just so that
we'll
you can...
We'll see if it goes down. So I'm not clear about this provision of anything of similar description. Can you explain that a bit more, or how we can?
I'm grateful. It's more so of a catch-all. It's not seeking to say, oh well, you can have a concert. It's not anything related to that. It's simply recorded amplified music, live music, where you have a singer with an amplified, for example, a speaker or a system or a sound system. But it's nothing beyond that. If I apologize if the wording wasn't specified. It was just so that there can't be a for example, if you're playing a soundtrack from an album, or for example in the Arab community you have old albums from the 70s that you're seeking to play on an amplified level that's done through an old speakerphone. It's nothing greater beyond that. If it does assist the bench, it's something that I could simply reword to just say provision of live music, recorded music, or performance of dances, and to leave it at that, so there's no confusion for the licensing department or any future bench. If that would assist your the bench in respect of that query. Yeah. Apologies, I'm not sure who's next in the bench.
I think we need to pause the hearing as the chair's computer's probably restarting.
Join shortly, sorry.
Sorry, Councillor Barclini. So we'll wait for Councillor Ahmed to join before we resume.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Agreed. Thank you. You're on mute, Chair.
My apologies. I'm back in now. Mr. Alhani, are you there?
Apologies, I am. I do believe Miss Legal Officer, Ms. Zeb has a question or has her hand raised.
Chair, if I may, so Mr. Alhani, in your application, there is already a request for live music indoors, recorded music indoors, performance of dance indoors, late night refreshment indoors. Now, the question from Councillor Ahmed was around the provision of anything of a similar description of live music, recorded music, or performance of dance. And it appears what you're saying, or the suggested amendment that you're offering the committee, is already reflected in what you're requesting. So I suppose the question is, what does that additional request add? That is what Councillor Ahmed, I understand, was trying to explore with you.
Yes, I'm grateful, Ms. Zeb. It's not seeking to add anything greater to that. It was simply meant to say if there is a mix, or apologies. I think he may have disconnected again. I will await him joining again.
Thank you, Mr. Alhani. It appears the chair has. Sometimes our computers are forced to restart and we don't have any control, so it may take a couple of minutes for chair to return. Thank you. We'll pause again.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, something went wrong and it disconnected me, but I think I'm in now.
I'm grateful.
We were just seeking clarification from Mr. Alhani whether indeed that additional provision is required in view of what he's just said, or is already included in the requests that I've already stated.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful to the guidance of Ms. Zeb and Mr. Councillor Ahmed. It's not a repeat provision. It's just more of a way to be able to ensure that any one of these or a combination of these are included. It's not something that the applicant would seek to be dogmatic on or to be very persistent on. It can be removed, and I would submit I do agree with Ms. Zeb. And Mr. Councillor Ahmed, the observation is correct. It can be incorporated with just that initial part, and then the rest of it to be removed as per, I think on page 6, the provision of anything of a similar description to live recorded music or performance of dance to simply read without that subsection. So
I think it can be amended as a dance and live music.
Yes.
Yeah.
That would be more. That's preferred, and I'm grateful that may be more of a favourable way to place it.
Yeah. So we'll make that as a dance and live music rather than provision of anything.
And live music. I am grateful. Thank you, Councillor. If I could just have 1 minute to note down your observation as well. Thank you. I've made a note of it, and that would be in section 1 of the application that I'm amending. And then that would be in the corresponding pages for the operating schedule. I'm going to just ensure, or I can do that at a later stage, so I don't.
Yeah, it's been noted anyway.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to questions now. Yes, Mr. Kirk, you can ask question now.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much. Well, so in my first question, you mentioned about the sound system. So could you please describe me the sound system that you're going to use in your premises, where it's going to be situated, what sound system you're going to use, as well as what measures have been taken to minimize noise disturbance for the public. I understand that you have installed the sound level meter. However, on your application, I couldn't see any information that the sound limiter is going to be installed. Also, how you're also going to how the music volume is going to be controlled. Have you have any acoustic treatments been installed?
I'm very grateful, thank you. And it may be something that I think Mr. Crook and the committee would like the applicant to demonstrate while he's aware of how his business works.
Yeah.
I do repeat the same submission of the sound limiter, but Mr. Hardy can explain the type of sound system they have and addressing the point of the sound limiter. I do apologize if there's an omission, but as I say, it could be for the pollution control to dictate how that condition of a sound limiter with the consent of the bench to be implemented. But Mr. Hardy, if you could just provide a brief summary of how it, and apologies, there's been 2 other hands risen. I'm not sure if that's in relation to this question.
We'll go to that after. Mr. Hardy, can you explain and answer the questions you've been asked about the sound limiter and the acoustic system?
Thank you, sir, to ask me out there. For me, I'm not, like, say, expert, but I use the people who have experience. I ask them. So as I know, the sound system is, I believe, Cork, and it's well-known company registered in Europe and EU, and they are certificated. The expert who fit the sound system, he done this and he checked the level, and we make sure also that there is no sound or no noise to be outside the place. And it's not just talk, but we put around the place double sandwich, they call it panel, so you can't hear any noise outside the place. That's why we don't have any noise or problem, any complaint. Everything, the gentleman, when we done the inquiry also, he come and he done the noise report. I believe his name is in the inquiry. And he done the noise report, they check. And even in the inquiry, as you know, all of you are experts, I'm sure. There is from the council people come, from OPDC, and from local people who live in the area or work. They come and they check and they saw everything. And as we always care about, there is no any problem we have. So we check, they check, and there is everything was okay. If you have any questions, sir, I'm happy to answer.
So I understand that the noise is not expected to be audible from places. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. There is no any noise outside the place.
Okay. So is the acoustic treatment already been implemented? Because as I explained in my representation, on the 13th of September, I arranged for a proactive visit, and the music was audible 100 meters away from your premises, basically where the Asda petrol station is. So as you can, I see the problem here because the music was audible at that distance, and if we also take into the account that there is a big Asda store, which theoretically should stop the music, and you know the music was still audible at that distance.
If we talk in the middle of the night, even if after 100 meters they can hear you. If our music was noisy, Asda can make complaint. Our neighbors who are 10 meters from us stick to the wall, we have complaint. If you hear the noise, that's not mean it's noisy. Engine leaving the car for less than 50 meters.
I'm grateful if I could just clarify on that point. It's not whether, for example, walking past a place, you can hear something and therefore it's audible. The licensing objective is in relation to public nuisance. Has it created a nuisance? I will get on to the method of which that they have measured the noise and why the evidence wasn't before the subcommittee to consider. But really, just to clarify, and if I've misunderstood it, I'm sure Ms. Legal Officer will correct me, but the licensing objective is specifically in respect to nuisance, not whether, for example, simply being outside the premises, you can hear something happening. Otherwise, every delivery warehouse in Park Royal will be in breach of one of the licensing objectives to say that we can hear a truck going in and out. So that's just to clarify that point.
Understand. I just quickly explain how we as a pollution control department assess the noise. So we do not use any sound level meters in that aspect. What we do is listening to the music and determining whether it's audible, whether it's excessive in volume. So I agree, if you're staying outside the music and there is a low level that can be heard from the street level outside the premises, I wouldn't see that as a problem. But if the reports from our officers describe the music as loud and also so that was on the 13th of September, the music still was heard 100 meters away. That means that the music near the premises was very loud.
I can hear the nursery inside my shop.
Those who are not speaking, can you keep your mics off, please?
Oh, sorry.
Should I say that again?
He did not hear you properly, so if you can repeat, yeah.
Yes, of course. So the way our department assess the noise is to listen to the noise. So I agree, if the music can be heard, but it's at low level from the street level outside your premises, I wouldn't see that as a problem. But our reports describe the noise from outside the premises, from the street level, as loud music, and the music that could still be heard 100 meters away from your premises. So here my question is, as that what Mr. Hadi said, that the music is not to be expected to be heard from outside the premises. I don't mind, at the low volume, but 100 meters away from the premises, if the music is still audible, I see that as problematic.
Okay, Mr. Hani.
I'm grateful, Councillor. It might be that the current line of questioning, and I understand why it needs to be, or why it develops in this way, is more leading to his representation rather than a question that can be given. And the representation will be heard in due course by the licensing objective. But as a question, I'm not seeing what the question is. If it's going to be made in submissions on behalf of his of that responsible authority, it should be made in that responsible authority's time, unless a specific question is being asked.
I think Matthews, you can correct me if it's wrong. The question is that if the music is heard in the street at low level, it's fine. But if the music is loud and heard from 100 meters, according to Mr. Crook, this is excessive of the limits they set. Is that correct, Mr. Crook?
That is correct. And how are we going to minimize this issue?
So this is why he's asking if you have made some arrangements to minimize that.
I'm grateful. To be quite clear, and I really don't want to sidetrack or mislead. There is a slight dispute of fact. If Mr. Crook's submission now is, for example, the way that they record these nuisance events is just by ear rather than by an objective device, it's slightly unfair. I'm, for example, somebody who's quite hard of hearing. If I were to stand 10 meters away, I'm probably not going to hear my microwave beeping, for example. But if I'm 100 meters away and I have exceptional hearing and you do hear something, it's not a measurement of whether that's created a public nuisance or not. An objective device, to be quite fair, with the measurements being provided or with the witness statements of whoever's heard it, and then providing evidence to the subcommittee would be a much greater help. However, to be quite pragmatic and to be fair to Mr. Crook, the concern that he has for the local residents and the residents that the councillors do represent is a legitimate one. The applicant has made clear that there is a sound limiter in place, and what the sound limiter can do for Mr. Crook is that he and his team are able to come in, stand at the position which they think is reasonable, which I would submit I think is 150 meters for the closest resident, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Crook. I think that was in the submission, in the representations that you put in, and control the sound limiter so it doesn't create a public nuisance for any one of those members of the public. And what happens with that sound limiter is that even if there's an attempt to go above that sound, it simply won't happen. By putting that system as part of the licensing conditions to allow just for the council members to make the decision, you then are able to alleviate that concern. So I do apologize, it wasn't put in the initial application, that specific specific part of the sound limit, and that may have alleviated the concerns of Mr. Crook prior to the application. But it is it's a very practical step, and it really, there's no point of having conditions unless they are ones that can be easily controlled and managed, and it's something that won't take up really any resources of Mr. Crook's department or his team.
Mr. Al-Hani, you have actually not answered the question, but
yeah.
Mr. Crook, question was, what arrangements have you made to minimize the noise? Yeah. Now, this is actually the premises owner's responsibility to minimize and do everything possible to make sure that the noise is contained within the premises. Yes, there could be little noise outside in the street level, but this was the question. But anyway, we'll move on now. You have answered your question. Mr. Crook, any other question?
Yes, also I have a question about procedures. What procedures will be followed in the event of antisocial or aggressive behavior, for example, from the guests of your premises? How are you going to deal with such an issue?
I could allow Mr. Hardy to, as the operator, he should have a better understanding of how this directly will work.
Mr. Hardy, you understood the question? Put your microphone on, please.
Yes, sir, I understand the question. First, you can ask them, the people who come from the council when they came. The road have two security, entrance and inside the place, two security. And our place, there is no alcohol. And if you are little bit, let's say you are drunk, you come from outside, the security will not allow you. So our road in our places, we didn't find any kind of antisocial behavior. And we have a book, we register everything if it's happened for us and for the police. I have camera from the beginning of the road until the end. Always I give it to the police when they need it. We are so helpful with them, and they depend in our place, in our area. Even when Babcook tried to have a problem with the travelers, the police asked me to help, and I didn't let the travelers go inside. When the antisocial behavior groups, there are hundreds of cars come in as the car park, doing really something big there happening. And we put like some plan, me and Asda and the police. I close the road from my side. They try because they close the way to the buses. So I close the road, I just open it to the buses. We are dealing as one group. We didn't have any problem. We didn't have antisocial behavior. As I told you, sir, there is no any antisocial behavior.
Mr. Hadi, Mr. Hadi,
Yes,
Hadi,
sir.
this is not question about the neighbors or ASDA. The question to you is, what procedures are in place in case of antisocial behavior? So please tell if you have any procedures in place
Yes, sir.
for your premises in case of
We
antisocial
have
behavior.
security company who provide 4 people, 2 inside, 2 in the road. So, and we don't sell alcohol, so we don't have any problems.
It's not a question about alcohol. The question is, what are the procedures in place in case of antisocial behavior or an incident?
If it's something happened, we have the incident book, and we have security, and we have the police.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Crook. Any other question?
Yes, I also wanted to ask about the parking spaces for your guests. Do you have any? How many spaces are available and where are they located?
We have a dealing with Mr. Jaradat to use his car park. It's about 50 cars, 40. And the people, they are parked their car. And most of the people now, they don't use the cars.
And what is your capacity? Like how many guests you're expecting to attend to your premises?
Sometimes 150, 100, something. It's not like before.
Okay, but what if all the people will drive to your premises, as the Park Royal, that area is not well communicated. I mean, there is a bit of the distance from, let's say, underground stations. I think there is only 1 or 2 buses that stop at the nearest bus stop. What if you're going to allocate more than 50 cars?
We have first 3 train station around us, a matter of 5-6 minutes. Harlesden Station, Park Royal Station, and North Acton Station. And there is a buses station here. And if we want to say what's happened, if all the customer come with the car is the same, we will say it to the stadium with 75,000 person come to watch the game. Everyone, when they come with the car, what will the stadium will do?
Okay, and sorry, where's the car park located?
End of the road to the left, Jaradat.
Okay, thank you.
Any more questions, Mr. Crook?
Yes, actually, I wanted also ask about the shisha. Are you going to have shisha in your premises? Are you going to sell shisha to your customers?
I'm grateful. And to be quite frank, that hasn't been made as part of the representations. I'm not sure which one of the licensing principles.
Mr. Hadi, can you switch off your microphone, please?
I'm grateful. In respect of, for example, the questions that's been put, it's not been made as part of the representation, so I'm not entirely sure which part of the representations that have been put in by the pollution control team shisha would relate to. Because from what I can see, there is public nuisance, and that's what was the representation that was put in.
I understand. The reason why I'm asking is like if the shisha is going to be served to the customers, I'm guessing that probably it's not going to be served indoors. It's going to be served outdoors. And my question, in case you're going to serve the shisha to your customers, how it might be that probably the windows or like the doors might be open at the back of your premises, which will allow the noise to escape from the premises. So I also wanted to ask whether you are going to serve the shisha to your customers, whether there's music going to be played for the shisha customers, and how you're going to address to the issue in case there is an open window, let's say, like open doors for the customers, and the music is escaping from within the premises.
Your microphone, Mr. Alhani.
Apologies. I'm grateful. The applicant has raised his hand. I would make the submission that if it's in respect to noise control and pollution, what the applicant has also proposed, if it is necessary, to be quite frank, is for a patrol person to be outside. The patrol person would say, for example, while people speaking, if there are people who are outdoors, doesn't create the same level of volume of amplified music, to be quite fair. the security guards or the patrol person could make the staff aware to tell them, well, look, this is an unacceptable level of sound. But Mr. Hardy can add further if he feels like there is another control or procedure that is in place that could assist the bench.
So for the shisha, you ask about the noise and the shisha and the windows. Or the expert done the measurement that the noise or the smoke will goes up because the opening area is 50% from the up of the place. So all the noise, if there is any noise, will goes down or goes up, and in the cases, both of the cases will not be noisy, and the smoke will goes up. It's been in measure, and the architect been done this. As I told you, sir, I am not an expert, but I depend on the people who have expert to give us the right way to work and live. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I did not catch that. What did Mr. Hadi say? Mr. Hadi, you can clarify that. Did he say the windows will be open, but the noise will go up and down?
No, essentially, it depends on the structure. There's a structure which is a 50% rule. It's not a matter of windows, and there's an opening at the top. In the previous inquiry that was made, the determination of the expert was that the noise travels downwards or upwards rather than to the side.
Okay.
And essentially, the fact that Mr. Hardy is saying is that the investment has been made. They seek to comply with whatever and however, whatever the bench feels necessary.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Crook, do you have any further question?
Actually, I have one more question that
Sure.
in regards to the alcohol being served. I understand that you haven't applied for the alcohol to be served, but you're going to organize events like weddings and etc. etc. Is that correct? Yes.
Weddings and private parties, yes, but Mr.
Okay.
Hardy operates a premises that hosts religious events, and in those, because he does that out of that premises, there has been no introduction of alcohol.
I see.
He doesn't seek to at any point introduce alcohol onto the premises. And if there is a temporary event notice that needs to be done for an event, that will be completely separate. But he can make the assurance to the bench that the provision of the sale of alcohol, because of the religious events, for example, free meals during Ramadan or during the mourning period within Islam, because of those events, there is not a drop of alcohol that he really wants to be entering the premises.
Okay, so does it mean that the guests, your customers, are not allowed to bring alcohol, their own alcohol, to the premises?
Apologies, his microphone is off, but he can answer that directly.
Mm-hmm.
No, sir, they are not allowed to bring alcohol. Our premises is alcohol free. No alcohol at all after the door. And if the customer is a little bit not in control of himself, he is a little bit drunk, we don't allow him to go in. Thank you.
Okay, and just one quick one. You mentioned about the 10 applications, and also in the application that you have submitted, you mentioned that 10 applications over the past 12 months without incidents or complaint been issued. Could you please tell me when was the last time you applied for the temporary event notice? Because I didn't see any information about this in our system.
Apologies, I could have just been put in by omission to Mr. Samaru, who prepared the application. Mr. Samaru unfortunately couldn't be here with us. He's had a hip replacement surgery, but it's not this premises. I think I recognize the submission, but it's not this premises that has had that to be able to rely on it. So I do apologize for that. What I've said about the 10 is really in respect of if one were to apply for a future one, that it would follow the same process, but it's not something that Mr. Hardy at this stage is really looking to do.
So there's been no 10 for these premises?
Not for this one, unless Mr. Hardy can prove me otherwise, but definitely not within the last 12 months.
Okay.
Oh, apologies, actually. I don't have the specific details. I can find confirmation of it, but it's not something that I have to hand right now.
Okay. Mr. Crook, any other question?
Thank you very much for your time, and that's all. That's all the questions I had. Thank you very much.
Thank you. My colleagues now. Councillor Jammu, you have a question, I believe.
Thank you so much, Chair. My question is actually to Mr. Hardy in response to what he said earlier, if that's okay, Chair.
Yes, sure.
Mr. Hardy, I'm a little bit slightly confused from what you've said just now. My understanding is this is a new premises license, but when you were talking earlier in your introduction, you mentioned something about 2021, and you mentioned also something about not same as before. Now, am I a little bit confused? I'm trying to establish, I mean, this being a new premises license, were you working at maybe the same premises before? Is that what this relates to?
I am. If you ask me about before, first we have the sound system what we put in the iPad. So as I know, the sound is not from live music.
Mr. Hardy,
No, that is not the question.
That was not my question. You mentioned 2021, the year 2021 earlier. You mentioned not same as before earlier. So I'm trying to establish this is a new premises license. Were you working for this premises when it was open before? Is that what you're trying to say? Do you have any connection with the previous people who were there?
As I told you, I am a leaseholder and I'm renting this place for people, for even sometimes for one funeral, as I say to you. So I know even the people when they cry, I think Mr. Yusuf and the lady with us also, she's Arabic. There is part of Ashura, the people was just crying.
No, Mr. Hadi, Mr. Hadi.
I'm just talking about the noise.
Mr. Hadi.
Chair, can I come in? Do you mind?
I will ask Mr. Al-Hani. Mr. Al-Hani, the question is, how long has he been operating these premises? And if not, then was he involved in 2021, as he said?
I'm grateful. From what I've understood, Mr. Hardy, my understanding of it is he's the leaseholder of the premises. Or sorry, like for example, he would rent it out to an operator. So the question to you, Mr. Hardy, is how long has he been operating the business for, number one? And if he wasn't operating the business, what was his involvement if it was beyond being the leaseholder or the landlord, or if I can understand that? Yeah. So, Mr. Hardy, that's the first question. The first question is, how long have you existed as the operator of that premises? So, for example, how long have you been the director, the owner, the person who's in control of this as it currently operates?
2018, I was there and I rented after, so I wasn't operated. And after this, I was the tenant, he left. So between time and that, we will not close the business. I was operating until the second tenant come.
So he's been operating since 2018.
No, apologies. My understanding is that he's had the premises to rent out to operators previously. So it's not that he was the operator himself.
Councillor Jammu, does that answer your question or not?
Well, to be honest, it's not very clear. It's not quite, I'm still not quite understanding. Mr. Hardy, I understand now that you're the leaseholder of the premises, okay? Were you operating the premises yourself or were other people operating it? Because you mentioned 2018, that's when you got the lease, right? So were you actually operating the premises yourselves since 2018?
No.
What was your role in 2018?
I'm the leaseholder and I rent it to the people with everything. It's the same like when you rent a car.
And when did they leave? When did they leave? Until what date they were there?
As I told you, I have 2 operators before and they left. And now we have a new operator. She just started now.
So who is the operator now and who was in 2021?
I believe it was Al Khafaji. The paper is now is Miss Gabriella.
So now it's not you?
I am the leaseholder.
Mr. Al-Hani, you'll have to clarify this. It's quite confusing.
Apologies. I think he may be misunderstanding the. He seeks to become an operator with the premises license holder, so to have an influence of the business by being the premises license holder. Previously, from what I've understood with him when I've conferenced with him and I've taken what he said, he was purely the leaseholder. For example, he would rent out, like a lot of, if you're a freeholder, you rent out the business entirely. He now seeks to become a part of that business. He's involved in the business. He was involved in the inquiry. He obviously wants to do it above board and to make sure that it's operated properly. And that's why he seeks to have the premises license held in his own name as Mr. Hardy. There is obvious operational benefits to having it in your own name. It means that you are able to say, well, these are the license conditions. It's in my name. It's not something I want to lose. Before Miss Isabella Gabriella's come involved, he has purely rented it out to other businesses. But he was quite heavily involved with the inquiry because that's a planning matter. It involves the leaseholder, whoever has the substantial control of the building itself.
Okay, Councillor Jammu, this is the answer. You take it or leave it. I think this is the answer.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any more questions from you, or shall I go to Councillor Baklini?
Please go to Councillor Baklini. Thank you.
Councillor Baklini, over to you, please.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Hadi, I can't see your face, sorry. Hi, I'm very familiar with the area. I'm very familiar with where the restaurant is. Just to carry on from Councillor Jammu's question, were you the business owner? Were you the managing, the license managing owner of the shop before this license? So we have a previous license. You're working on a previous license. Your current license, is it under your name or not?
It's under my name.
It's under your name. So it means you have been the premises holder from before today's date, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, is your restaurant a members only restaurant, or is it open to the public?
Open to the public.
Open to the public. Thank you. Also, I see from outside your shop. Sorry, Councillor Jammu, can you put your microphone on mute, please? Thank you. Yeah, so from outside, I can see shutters. You've got many shutters on the side of the entrance. And I can always kind of see people smoking shisha, even late in the evening. So my question is specifically about how are you going to make sure the noise doesn't travel outside the restaurant when people are having shisha, because we know that your place is very well known for serving shisha. Yeah. So my only concern is about how you are going to make sure the sound doesn't travel, given the fact that you've got huge shutters. We can see one actually right behind you.
No, that's in the middle, because in the night is not safe area. When we close, nobody here, so we have shutters everywhere. I think my place have shutters more than us.
Yeah, you do. I can see it. Yeah, but how are you going to make sure that these shutters, when they are open, yeah, how are you going to make sure that the sound doesn't travel outside and annoy the residents and hospital, etc.? So do you have a specific like anything in place to make sure that this doesn't happen? Because I think this is the main concern at the moment.
Yes, Ms. Councillor, we have, as I told you, I depend on the expert people. We have the sound system who fit by expert person. And the sounds about, if you go to reality, I don't know about sound system or these, the architect and who do the noise report, he advised me to do this, to do that, to make the open, and this kind of glasses who put in the side, that will stop, and the shutters and the sandwich panel, if you want to. I think you can see something like this from here. That's will stop.
Yes, Mr. Hadi, all this is good, but my main question is not about the sound itself. It's not about how loud the music is. My question is, are you going to put soundproofing to limit the sound from traveling outside your shop? Are there any anything you're going to do to make sure that the sound doesn't travel outside? It's not about like putting the music loud. This is not only the problem. You've got wide shutters, and when the wide shutters are open, sound can be heard outside as far as I don't know where. So would you be like do you have a strategy to tackle this problem?
Apologies, Councillor. I could answer it on his behalf because it is something I raised.
Mr. Hadi, can you switch off your microphone, please? Yeah.
Apologies. Sorry, apologies, Councillor. I have discussed it with him quite briefly. There were two main aspects. One that we've already began to implement. So one is an architect that visited last week to see how soundproofing can be added to the permanent fixtures to help alleviate and absorb as much as we can. The second is sometimes what happens in the central London nightclubs is that you have a patrol person, and the patrol person is literally that. So there's already one there to try and alleviate parking disturbances. The other one can be there. For example, will walk up to wherever, for example, Mr. Crook would want. I think he mentioned the petrol station. If a public nuisance level of noise can be heard, reasonably it would be apologies, I will halt.
Mr. Alhani, it's a very simple question. Do you have
I think
any soundproofing in place? That's it. Do you have any soundproofing strategies in place?
Apologies. I think I'll just stop just because of the councillor. She's not joined. She's left the hearing, I think.
Councillor Jammu?
Yeah, I'm sure she'll come back. I don't know, maybe
okay. We'll stop here until Councillor Jammu is back.
Maybe her battery died or something.
I'll try to speak to her to make sure that she's back. Yeah, she's back now. Councillor Jammu, are you online now? Can you switch on your camera, please, if you can hear me?
Yes, I do apologize. No
That's
idea
okay.
what happened there.
No worries, no worries. Mr. Alhani, the question was simply, do you have any soundproofing measures or not?
We currently do have soundproofing measures.
So, Councillor Bakalini, can you carry on?
Yes. What are they? Like, can you explain to us what are they? Because
other than sound limiters we have heard before.
It's
any other.
It's in addition to that.
In the bundle, you didn't provide us with more evidence in this term.
I'm grateful that Mr. Hadi can provide in much better detail, and he's in the premises, so I'm sure if I don't want to say a 360 walk around the premises to demonstrate, but he can provide more detail to you.
I don't want to stop Mr. Hadi talking, but Mr. Hadi earlier similar question was asked, and he said the experts know better. He's not really able to answer. Mr. Hadi, you want to answer this question?
I think he was just about as to noise escaping, but he can provide the details of how it's limited that led to the expert determining there wasn't a public nuisance level leakage of noise. But okay. I'll let him explain it.
Yeah, Mr. Hadi.
If you ask me about the sound limiter or the wall, we use the sandwich wall to stop the noise. And we are putting even, I think, as she said, the councillor, that she is in the area. We are doing every time, and even next month we will start to do refurbish and arranging. So always we are taking care about the place and the noise, with part of our work. So as we done the before about another glass stopper for the noise, I think there is another plan also. We will start to do it in end of or beginning of the next month. Also, it will help more.
Councillor Bacalini, this is the answer. Any other question?
Yes, I do have more questions,
Yes, please.
Chair. In terms of the opening times, you have applied for a 2 a.m. License to open until 2 a.m. Am I right?
Just
yes,
once.
that is correct.
Yes.
2:30, I think. Opening is 2:30. No, 2 a.m.
2 a.m. Yes. So would you please kind of explain to us why do you need to extend the opening times from 11 p.m. up until 2 a.m.?
First, Ramadan for the after iftar and imsak. That's what. Second, we have 1 month. We lose a big meal because of it. Second, it's in Ashura. Also, we do the food and we need this time in the night. It's about 40 days. So if you count, there is about, and there is for the Christian part of Iraq who live in Mosul, there is also 1 month. Every night they come to have their food and this. So it's part of the work.
Would you be considering a condition I'm not sure, like maybe 1 a.m. to close at 1 a.m. instead of 2?
You know the MSAC time, so I'm sure you know about the timing. If you
I'm conscious because
me, I can't say no.
You stated no. I'm just if this license is granted, I'm just conscious about other businesses.
I will lose about 2 months from meals.
You stated about the elite and other cafes which are out of the context, but they close at 1 a.m.
Elite is different. They have alcohol, so people they come there, they drink 1 o'clock, they go home. But for us, people just come to eat and go back.
Would you be if this license is granted, would you consider a condition to close at 1 a.m.? That's my question.
Yes or no?
If I could just very quickly ask that I just take the instructions from him and just explain it to him. I could just ask that me and him both just mute our microphones, just like a very quick conversation, because it's quite substantial. Just to confirm with the councillor, is that for the times at Friday and Saturday?
Yeah, like a standard 1 a.m. closure, please.
For Friday and Saturday? Or is that the...
You have applied from 11 a.m. in the morning up until 2 a.m. late at night. So
Friday and Saturday they have applied for 2:30.
2:30.
Yeah, 2:30.
Would this be a standard? Yeah, my question is, would you agree on opening up until 1 a.m. each day? Yes or no?
On each day?
Yes.
Okay. If I could just speak with him very briefly, just on the phone, please.
Yeah. Switch off your microphone both.
Hi, apologies. Mr. Hardy's just joining. I've discussed it briefly with him, and I have explained. Obviously, one of the large reasons is to ensure antisocial behaviour, safety, public safety. Just one observation I make before I just put this forward to, especially to Councillor Baklini.
Yeah.
As a premises that is not being involved with the sale of alcohol, it has substantial security that's involved with the other measures. I have spoken to the applicant just for the sake of honestly economically being sound and for the religious events, more so than his own financial interest. If all the time, so for example, if something's at 1:30, it's reduced to 1, something's at 2, it's reduced to 1:30, for all the days to be considered quite thoroughly. And I would say that's a fair compromise. So for example, the Saturday and the Sunday, the Friday and the Saturday, the licensable activities will end at 1:30. And then the same knock-on effect for all the weekdays for the licensable activities, all to end for half an hour before. What it means for him is that he loses about 3.5 hours of licensable activities and 3.5 hours of the premises itself being open. But it means that he's able to still commit to those religious events, which take up about 2 or 3 months of a year.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Any more questions from you, Ms. Councillor?
I just wanted to also just clarify with Mr. Al-Hani and Mr. Hadi about the dispersal strategy, that they need to be really well aware about it. This should be taken into consideration. And two, about the SIAs. Sorry, Mr. Al-Hani, I can't see you, and Mr. Al-Hadi.
Sorry.
Yeah, so about the SIAs, you have one SIA from Monday to Thursday and 2 SIAs Fridays and up until Sunday. Am I right?
Apologies. My understanding is that his
he's nodding. He's nodding.
Okay, this is great.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, thank you. No
and
more.
He has, just to clarify, he has spoken with the security contracted team. It's a separate company that come and they do it. They both have stated sometimes there's a little bit of a shortage in security staff. I have been a security guard myself. It's not the most fun job, but there is an extra 2 people available per night if the council feel like that's would assist. But because of the size of the place, the openness of it, if it's something that the councillors or the bench feels like is required, that has already been looked into and envisioned already. Unless I can assist any further.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Baklini, any more questions from you?
Thank you, Chair. No more questions.
Okay, before I go to Councillor Jammu, Mr. Hadi said he had a license on his name before this. Since when he had that license? Do you, Mr. Hani?
I believe you also said about the license for the A3 in that time, when it was the A3 until 11 o'clock when Mr. Anthony applied for it. When we start working in the first year, I don't have a lot of expert in the licensing and these things. So always I ask the people, I ask the expert, I ask my friends who are the solicitors, I ask my solicitors, and I try to do the best to comply.
I didn't really understand. Can anybody clarify what he said about the since when?
Sorry, Chair. I think Mr. Hadi didn't get properly your question. Mr. Hadi, into 2021, were you the license holder? So you were doing business in 2021, right?
Yes.
Okay, we know about the previous problems with bamboo. We're not going to go there and speak about it. So we are aware of the previous problems, but we are only now concerned about
the problem with bamboo in council. Yeah?
Yes, but we do not want to go there because we are treating this as a fresh license. Yeah, so it's a new license that you have applied for now. We're not going to go there, but we just need to know if you were the business owner during the past few years. That's all.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Batlini, for clarifying this.
Thank you.
Councillor Jammu.
Chair, thank you so much. Just one last time, actually, Mr. Hardy, the premises that you're sitting in there, is that the actual premises where the Bamboo Lounge, is that where you are?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Hardy?
Yes.
You're at the Bamboo Lounge. Okay,
Yeah.
there is a lot of echoing coming from there. And is that because, has the soundproofing been done, or are you waiting to do the soundproofing there?
Apologies, no. I think the echoing is his microphone. One or two of the microphones might be on.
So quiet I can hear even the breath of my pets behind me.
I was trying to establish, Mr. Hardy, if any soundproofing has been done to that property, or is that going to be done?
It's been done, soundproofing, and there is a extra will be done.
The extras that's being done is in respect of the architect that visited the premises recently. It would have been last week on Tuesday that arrived, but the previous sound insulation was the sandwiched walls. So the vacuum in the middle, or the lack of air in the middle, creates a soundproofing mechanism.
Okay, Councillor Jammu, are you done?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Crook, you've raised your hand.
Thank you very much. So you mentioned that architect came to give you some instructions about the soundproofing. What about the acoustician? Have you hired any acoustic company to help you, give you some advice about the acoustic treatments, how to control the noise within the premises, and how to isolate the music from inside the premises outside?
Yes, with the architect, he's come, and in providing the quotations for the survey reports, he's also provided a brief overview, because he does a few premises like this, and I'm happy to provide his details. He's confirmed that he's happy for me to do so. Essentially, the acoustics and the survey report need to be done in together. There was already an expert report done for the inquiry in terms of the sound that confirmed that there isn't a leakage of sound that creates a nuisance, but what we're doing further to this is to ensure that the elevation of the premises is taken into place when installing the new soundproofing. So part of it is that we have a floor plan that's done, but there needs to be a specific elevation survey that's done by an elevation surveyor that the architect has worked well with. The architect's firm is Wolf Architects. It's Mr. Sean Brenow, if I pronounced his name correctly. He's visited on Tuesday. He's due for a visit within the next week or so to come on site with the surveyor and the acoustics expert. And that's being done in addition to the soundproofing that was made on a structural level as well.
So the consultant, they use the service of the consultant that you use is anyone, let's say, a member of Institute of Acoustics giving you a consultation on this?
Yes. There was an issue previously with people not being members and such, so we made sure that he is a member of the College of Acoustics, I believe. I'm not sure of the exact acronym. The architect is a RIBA qualified architect. The consultants are all qualified city planning consultants as well. So they are all qualified members of staff. They will come in, they will provide the exact reading, using the, I understand the noise pollution team have a different method, but they will provide the objective sound measurement readings that's done to an industry standard. The same individuals that are used normally by Mr. Samru, they're all qualified and part of the relevant licensed bodies.
I see. Do you have any documentations on the reports, on the acoustic reports that you could provide to us?
I have the previous sound report that was used in the inquiry. I believe Mr. Samru does have a copy of it. I can provide it to you probably within the next hour or two, if you do allow me for the time, just to make sure he's out of the hospital. But that is easily providable to yourselves and the committee members as well.
And according to what standards the acoustic reports and the measurements been taken? Do you remember?
I don't remember off the top of my head. I know it's to the industry standard, but I don't want to throw letters out there and say that this is the industry standard or the ISO standard that's been followed. But I do know that's done to an industry standard. I believe. 1 second. If I could just have a moment. I can liaise with Mr. Hardy. It's something that is just 1 moment. I can liaise with Mr. Hardy, but it's something that is readily available to provide to yourself.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm making that as a personal assurance. I can provide it if the court, if the bench, not the court, would like it to be provided.
So I understand that the premises still need some acoustic treatments to prevent the noise from escaping from the premises.
It's more so not that it needs it, more so just so that it's just a further investment that the business is continually seeking to make. The measurement is obviously how loud it is inside is not really of material difference to the licensing subcommittee. It's how much noise is is leaking. So if, for example, there's very good insulation and it's extremely loud inside, as long as there's no sound leakage, that's all done outside.
Acoustic treatments are still in progress. Is that correct?
Further acoustic treatment has already been done to the premises. That's alongside the sound limiter. Further investment is being made so that the noise inside, if it wants to be raised, it can be raised. But at the moment, he's not seeking to do that until those are in place.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, I think we are done. Mr. Hardy, you wanted to say something? Switch on your microphone then.
I just to remind that we have the noise report, and if there is noise still available, it can make the 10-meter neighbor who can complain. If you can hear it, as I told you, sir, you still can hear. I can't say that me and you do have the same ability to hear, but still, if it's noise. By the way, sir, Saraya in front of the hospital, they granted the license. Do you know about Saraya? It's in front of the hospital. It's about less than 50 meters. They granted the license.
I think, Chair, sorry, I think this is in council.
I can hear that, but I think okay, let him finish.
So Pachi, they have the license also. And what we want to do is just to catch the time that for Ramadan and Ashura and the Durzi Christian.
Okay, you will have time to sum up at the end, Mr. Alhani, so you can say anything like that in your summing up.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so we are done with the first part. The next part is now to get the representation from Mr. Crook, the responsible authority. Mr. Crook, over to you now.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon, actually, everyone. So my name is Mateusz Kruk, and I'm the Noise and Nuisance Officer looking after Acton Cluster. I have submitted a presentation opposing the new premises license for Bamboo Lounge due to the applicant's failure to comply with licensing objectives, disregard for regulations and the council authority, as well as long-standing history of noise and nuisance complaints dating back to 2018. These complaints include instances of antisocial and aggressive behavior. Upon reviewing the complaint history, reports from officer visits documented extremely loud amplified music, raised human voices that could be clearly heard from the complainant's premises. The music was described as being similar to that played at an outdoor festival, clearly audible from 150 to 200 meters away, or at an incredible level, causing vibrations that were felt inside the patrol car. The premises are located within the Park Royal Industrial Estate, surrounded by local businesses. The unlicensed activities of Bamboo Lounge have disrupted numerous business over the years, with the establishment being constantly identified as a source of noise disturbances, antisocial behavior, and aggressive conduct from staff, patrons, and management. It has been reported that some complainants were physically attacked or threatened by the owner, Mr. Hadi, and management of the premises. Due to these concerns, our system...
I do apologize. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Legal Officer. I am able to state that if a submission is vexatious or frivolous, that the submission shouldn't be introduced into the proceedings.
Let him speak, and we've got a legal advisor. If there's anything, a legal advisor will jump in.
Thank you.
So let him carry on.
Thank you very much.
So, Chair, if I may, sorry, in response to Mr. Alhani's question, it appears that Mr. Crook is making representations which are not on his actual representation, and that may be what Mr. Alhani is perhaps seeking to address. If there is anything specific that Mr. Alhani is taking issue with, then he perhaps needs to say, Mr. Crook is an experienced officer, I understand. So, Mr. Crook, you will be aware that any information that you provide the licensing subcommittee should support and only add to the representation that you've already made in the agenda pack. You shouldn't be introducing anything which is not relevant to what you've already stated in your initial representation, and then the committee are able to ask, and indeed Mr. Alhani will have the opportunity to ask any questions of Mr. Crook if there's any clarification needed. Does that assist you, Chair?
Yes, it does. Mr. Crook, does that make sense?
It does. So in my representation, I have also mentioned antisocial and aggressive behavior from. So like to discuss. However, if you'd like me to focus on my representation, also was made on crime and disorder. So the reports that we have received, the phone calls from the complainants included this information, and I wanted to share that with the committee.
The point is only that do not bring any new information that has not been submitted to the panel.
I understand. Okay, so well, due to these concerns, what I'm trying to show that our system flags Bamboo Lounge for noise officers patrol to only approach with police accompaniment. So that's also the reason why there is not much communication between our department and the Bamboo Lounge, because we've been instructed and been warned in the past not to approach the premises without police. Moreover, during late night proactive visits, many times officers have observed clear licensing breaches. Most recent was on the 13th September 24, when the loud amplified music from the Bamboo Lounge was still audible from Western Road, approximately 100 meters away. As I mentioned, many businesses have been affected by activities.
One second.
Of course.
Mr. Alhani, you don't feel comfortable?
I'm quite sorry. I can either, I mean, it's according to the instruction of yourself and Ms. Zeb, I could either allow for the submissions to be made in and then ask for you to disregard them. But some of them are quite, I don't want to say, they're quite fantastic in terms of like, they're quite, I find it a little bit difficult to allow for it to be involved, for example, the disturbance to local businesses. Would you prefer for me to say it at the end?
I agree. No, I agree. Ms. Zeb, you want to come in?
Chair, so Mr. Crook is an objector to this licensed application, so he has every right to make a representation in relation to or make submissions in relation to his objection that's within the agenda pack. I've already stated what Mr. Crook's remit should be, and I'm sure he'll be clear on what that remit is. the panel chair, yourself or your colleagues may want to check with Mr. Crook why this information wasn't readily available within his representation prior to the agenda pack being published, so that Mr. Alhani and indeed Mr. Hadi had a fair opportunity to consider his representation in full, because it appears that the substance to that representation is now being presented to the committee. So I can see what Mr. Alhani's concern is in regards to the information provided to the committee. And whilst he's somewhat accepted that he can address that at the end and invite you to disregard that information, you may take the view that this is an opportunity for Mr. Crook to perhaps review exactly what he has scripted before him before he continues to make any further representations on this matter, or alternatively allow him to finish, as Mr. Alhani has said, and he can then invite you to disregard as he finds appropriate, and I can advise if indeed required at that point.
I think I would ask Mr. Crook to stick to his submission and only focus on what has been submitted and not bring, as I said before, not bring any new information. The panel will, I mean, if there's any information that is available on social media or in the news, that panel is aware, but anything to do with this application, I would ask Mr. Crook again to only focus on what has already been submitted.
Okay, understand. Thank you. Okay, so just a quick note here. I just wanted to explain that the Council Noise and Nuisance team is not obligated to investigate business-to-business noise complaints. Otherwise, formal action would have been taken from the reports of the officers and the visits that have been made in the past, which would include issuing a notice and potential legal proceedings. Well, I strongly believe the premises should not be granted a license on the grounds of preventing public nuisance, and applicants' repeated disregard for regulations, authority, and community responsibility indicates a lack of commitment to the licensing objectives. I think Mr. Heidi confirmed in some sort that he operating the business since 2018. This is something that we also have in our system. However, when I was reviewing our data, I didn't notice any 10 applications. We conducted several proactive visits and visits where we observed the unlicensed activities, which had been referred to the licensing team. However, if license is granted, I request that the opening hours be limited to e-link call hours, and that the following conditions be imposed. May tell the conditions that I would like to include in the applicant's license. Okay, so number one, adequate sound insulation and sound limiting devices must be installed. In the event of equipment malfunction, amplified music should not be played. Speakers must remain inside the premises and not be positioned near openings such as doors and windows. A sound lobby with 2 sets of self-closing doors should be installed at the entrance exit to prevent noise escape. All windows and doors should remain closed to prevent noise escape, and noise should not be audible at sensitive locations such as dwelling, hospital, hotels, as well as other business premises.
Zena, are you okay? You have taken notes of these conditions?
Chair, I was just going to say, I think that Matthias is going very quick. I don't know if anybody else was able to take a full note of those, but those need to be emailed through. Matthias, you're going very fast, and we need to take a note of these if they haven't already been shared with the committee, if you want them to be considered when they retire. And I'm sure Mr. Alhani, unless you're vigorously typing there, I don't think you would have had a note of them either, so that you can make any representations in your closing. So Matthias, it may be if you could email those through to Zaina, the clerk, and she can then share them with Mr. Al-Hani as well, so that he has them before him.
Of course, naturally.
I would also just ask, I think Mr. Hardy is trying to join the hearing. I'm grateful. Thank you, Ms. Zeb. I think Mr. Hardy is just trying to join the hearing again, and he's being yeah, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Crook, you can carry on, and if you can email those conditions to, you can say what you are saying, but at the same time, if you can email them to Zaina.
Of course. So I repeat the conditions that I see should be included in the premises. Number one is sound insulation and sound limiting devices must be installed. In the event of equipment malfunction, amplified music should not be played. Number two, speakers must remain inside the premises and not be positioned near openings such as windows or doors. A sound lobby with 2 sets of self-closing doors should be installed at the entrance exit to prevent noise escape. All windows and doors should remain closed to prevent noise escape, and noise should not be audible at sensitive locations such as dwellings, hospital, hotels, and other business premises. I also see the hours as excessive, so I would request for the opening hours to be limited from Sunday till Thursday until 11 p.m. and on Friday and Saturday until 11:30 p.m.
4 hours.
4 hours, yes.
Okay. Are you done?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Now, questions. Mr. Al-Hani, you can start if you have any questions to.
I'm grateful. I think Ms. Zeb might agree with me that there's no specific procedure for making a request, for example, that submissions are disregarded. So I hope to make that request before I do ask the officer questions. And essentially, the request is that there's been submissions that were made now. A lot of them are to do with business complaints, business-to-business complaints, which have not been included in the representations and have not been substantiated. While Mr. Crook relies on it, none of the evidence has been put forward or an objection has been made. Number two, he's making a submission that there have been assaults that have been taken place. And if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Crook said Mr. Hardy specifically has assaulted somebody. Unless I'm mistaken, because I'm quite sure that's what I've recorded.
Any submission made, and I clarified that earlier by Mr. Crook, that is not submitted to the panel beforehand will not be considered. Yeah. So the panel will not consider any of the information that has been put forward now, which was not submitted before.
I'm grateful then. If
Hadi, can you switch off your microphone, Hadi?
And then it might be assist if I just do it in summing up the points that I find are frivolous and just to focus my questions for now to Mr. Crook.
So this is the opportunity for you to ask any questions, but you will have the opportunity to sum up later.
I'm grateful. Mr. Crook, one of the first things you said is that your officers have been instructed to not actually visit the premises because of the unsafety concern that you've had. Isn't that correct? That's essentially what you've said.
That is correct.
On the 13th, however, you state that you have visited the premises on the 13th of September 2024.
So the officers didn't attend the premises. They took the observations from the street level. As I said, all our patrol officers been instructed not to approach the premises without the police.
I mean, from what I've understood from Mr. Hardy, they've actually visited and they've gone inside the premises and spoken with him. However, there's been no concern or complaint that has been made to him about the premises. Has your department contacted Mr. Hardy at all about noise complaints?
Yes. So in the past, we had a communication with Mr. Hardy.
When would it have been, if you could just specify? And also, why has this evidence not been provided to the subcommittee to consider?
Of course, just a quick clarification on the 13th of September, Mr. Hadi, I believe, said that he'd been visited by other council's officers departments, not from the pollution control on that day. As I said, this was because of the alert that we have for our patrol officers. The last communications, unfortunately, I'm not able to give you the exact dates now. As
and could you tell us who they were from? Who made the complaint?
Who made the complaint? I cannot.
Yeah,
I cannot provide this information without the complainant's.
You were able to make the Okay, I mean, are you able to say when the complaint was made?
You mean which complaints? Because we receive many complaints,
Well,
some from the local businesses, some from the anonymous members of public.
I mean, there's been no representations made from anybody, so we're really relying on you to provide any information as to when any noise complaint has been made to Bamboo.
Of course. So the most recent one, if you just hold on for a sec, was made in 15 December 2023, and that was when our officers also attended and witnessed the noise. We also have an active communication with one of the complainant, who's the local business owner.
On the 15th of December, your officers did attend the site, the premises.
On the 15th of December?
Yeah, did they actually go into the premises?
No, they didn't.
And what did you communicate with Mr. Hardy about the complaint?
So the last communications with Mr. Hadi definitely wasn't done within the last 12 months since I took over the Acton cluster.
So within the last 12 months, you've had no communication with Mr. Hardy about any of the complaints?
There was no communication.
And then since this premises license application's gone in, you've made an allegation that Mr. Hardy has attacked a person.
Yes, so that's what we have in our system from the reports from the people who contacted us in regards to the noise problem.
And I assume you would have passed on this to the police, who haven't made an objection.
Well, that been referred to the relevant team of Ealing Council. And I can't speak for the police why they didn't make the complaints. Basically, I see here the problem not only about the noise nuisance, but also about antisocial behavior. That's something that I wanted to share with you, as well as why the communication between.
You haven't provided any proofs of when any antisocial behavior has been done, and that was my second question actually. Why have you not, from the assault that Mr. Hardy has done, from, you said, the excessive noise complaints from local business to business, from the complaints of the central hospital, from the complaints of the residents, from the reports that have been done, you state, why have you not provided any proofs or any evidence that any of this has taken place to the subcommittee?
Yes, so as I said, the most recent complaint when the officers attended was on the 15th of December, and that was when the officers attended. The thing is, why we haven't taken any formal action is because our department is not obligated to deal with all the complaints being received by the local businesses, and we do not deal with business-to-business allegations.
So in the past 10 months or just under, you've had no complaints about Bamboo Lounge or the premises?
We have we have a communication with one of the business owner who keeps complaining about the noise nuisance. Again, as I said, we cannot deal with this issue because we do not deal with business to business.
That's fine, but I'm saying the last complaint you've had, you said, was on the 15th of December, which you didn't tell Mr. Hardy about.
15th of December, and the reason why the officers didn't approach Mr. Hardy on that day was because they've been instructed not to approach the premises.
Okay. I mean, to be quite frank with you, other members of Ealing Council do approach, have gone in, I have been there when they were in. They've all been at the premises without any assault taking place. I mean, would you have known about another Ealing council officer being assaulted in your premises?
This is something I'm not aware. I just only on the information that we have in our system. If we have such a alert, then the patrol officers are instructed not to attend.
Okay. I think Mr. Hardy does have one question. If I could just ask Councillor Ahmed if he could ask that question now, and then I could continue, just so that for the time's sake, because I know we've taken up a lot of time of the subcommittee.
Thank you.
Sir, you said there is assault from me, whereas there is no report to the police. There is no any victim. So either the police, they didn't do their job, or you don't do your job, because you said that there is a report, warning that the council not came.
Can I just come in? This is not part of the record. So as I said,
Mr. James Huge, last time he came here alone when the shop was closed.
Sorry,
was with the worker.
Mr. Hardy.
He said, I have a good relation with the council, even
Mr.
whatever
Hardy.
it's have. But when they come to me, I'm talking nice with them, and they are talking nice with me. We are more civilized to be aggressive, sir. I have 4 degrees, and we didn't have any problem with anyone. So if somebody said, you said that there is aggressive
can
attack,
you listen to me at the moment?
if there is nothing reported to the council or to the police, that means you are not doing your job, sir. I'm sorry to say this.
I think, just so I can clarify, I think Mr. Councillor Ahmed is essentially saying that at the outset, he made clear that if it's a frivolous or a vexatious or a unsubstantiated representation that hasn't been mentioned before, it's not something that the committee is seeking to rely on.
So there's no need to waste time on that, because this is not part of the record and it's not in front of us. Okay, are we done with the questions?
I have 2 questions left,
Sure,
exactly 2.
Sure.
The first one being, Mr. Crook, if the council or specifically your department were to have the ability to come in, make the sound limiter, they dictate the sound up to 100 meters or 150 meters. Would that be something that the local or would that satisfy your department to ensure that there is no public nuisance noise levels being generated, along with the further investment and the input of your department into acoustic proofing?
As I said, as when making the adjustment to the sound limiter or setting the level for the sound limiter, as I mentioned, I don't feel that the premises should grant the premises license. Should you grant the premises license, I mentioned that some conditions needs to be implemented. One of them is that the music is not audible from some sensitive locations, including the local businesses. So for the sound
which local businesses?
Which is surrounded by your premises, or like in your.
I mean, these are the businesses that you wouldn't investigate their sound complaints, or don't have any records of making any sound complaints in the past 10 months.
Again, something I cannot exactly confirm which premises made a complaint against your premises, because due to the JTPR rules. But if you, when setting the level for the sound limiter, what we could do is set up at the level where the music is not audible from those premises. This is something we call a sound exercise. When one officer stays within the premises, adjusting the level for the sound limiter, and another officer is in another premises to hear whether the music is still making the nuisance, is still audible, etc.
I'm sorry. I think Ms. Councillor Barclini did have a question prior. Sorry, your microphone is off.
I just want to come in to just tell you that there are no substantial questions in your conversation. I think this comes up, Chair, as sum up. under summing up, and I think maybe it's best if we could move on to summing up, Chair. It's just I'm just clarifying.
Okay, let Mr. Al-Hani satisfy himself, and then
I'm grateful. The question I could have put maybe more tactfully was, would your department setting the sound limiter and dictating the acoustics, which I think was your previous concern previously, would that satisfy the objection that you had in terms of public nuisance? That was a question, but I think he's answered it, saying that they would want to set it as a condition, but they would still rely on the other conditions that they put forward.
I need to clarify that we cannot come and do it for yourself. So probably maybe a sound engineer or like someone who knows how to operate with the sound limiter needs to be in a place to make such a what we can do is set up the agreement, like what level is acceptable and doesn't make a nuisance to the local to the local businesses or like the businesses in the area or the sensitive locations.
I'm grateful, thank you. I think the applicant has one question that he has. My questions are over.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Hadi, you have any question, or this is a legacy hand? Switch on your microphone.
Yes, sir. About the visit which is come from OPDC, Council, Health and Safety, and the noise. Why the noise? They didn't come to check what's the level, because there is certain level. I don't know what's the number because I am not expert. I believe he is expert. So what's the level that they want or he know about our place and what we should go if he want to say that we are not compliant?
Of course. So as I said, when we assessing the noise,
can you switch off your microphone, Mr. Hadi? So he's basically asking you what level or what limits you want to put on them.
Of course. So we cannot give you the exact numbers in decibels, like what level the sound limiter or like the music should be played. This is because there is different factors that we need to put into account. One of them is the acoustic treatments that you put in your premises. When we assessing the noise, we're using our ears to assess the noise. Why we don't use the sound level meters? Simply because some bunch of the frequencies might be more problematic. They might not be so loud for our ear. But maybe I give it an example, like the long waves, the low frequencies travels further distances. So for our ear, they might not be excessively loud. Our perception is that the mid or high frequencies seems to be louder than lower frequencies, but the lower frequencies are also problematic. For example, causing the vibrations that our officers could felt in our patrol cars, even when we've been parked at further distance, approximately 100 meters away, for example.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I think we are done with the questions. My colleagues, do you have any questions? I don't see any hands, so I take it as no question. I have no questions as well.
No questions.
Thank you. Thank you. So we'll move on to the summing up, and I'll ask Mr. Crook to sum up first and then the applicant.
Thank you very much. So as I said, I am not confident for the applicant to grant the premises license due to our records and historical incidents when we witnessed it, the unlicensed events. There was no also any 10 applications for the last 12 months, but we believe from our proactive visits that the premises was still operating outside the evening's core hours. Another thing is that in my opinion, the premises is still working on the acoustic treatments for the premises, and the premises is not ready for carry on the regulated entertainment until late hours. So as a summary, I do not feel that the premises should grant the premises license. However, should they grant such a license, the limits to the hours should be considered, as well as the conditions that I have mentioned before.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
The applicant.
I'm grateful. Thank you. In respect to the premises, the application was met with a single objection. The single objection being from the noise pollution team. From the representation and my understanding initially of it, it was to do with sound. And I believe from the question of Councillor Barclini, the concern was the acoustic sound and the leakage of the sound. The applicant has provided assurances that they already have a sound limiter, they already have acoustic investment. They are seeking to make further investments, but that's for the premises itself. It doesn't mean that the premises isn't ready. The single representation put in today had other matters that I mentioned. Mr. the chair of the bench has provided an observation or assurance in respect to the other representations in terms of the assault. But what's quite clear is that the objection that was given today is unsubstantiated. It's without any evidence. We've seen a difference in the treatment for a premises that for planning can have the noise level all the way up, but the noise pollution team are saying that, well, what they want is to use their ears, while the requirement that they're asking of the applicant is to have an industry standard noise measurement machine. It is it's a difficult balancing act to say that, well, you should use these machines, and when we're asking for measurements, they simply are being disregarded to say, well, it is up to the perception of whatever that individual wants to hear. We then hear that, for example, or the insinuance is that it's not a place that is cooperative or in agreement or would seek to engage. And that is, I think, the real concern for the councillors. The councillors are concerned that if they do grant a premises license, what engagement with the premises license holder have to be able to actually deal with any of the complaints that are made, which is a legitimate concern. The reality is the one department that has put in a representation hasn't contacted Mr. Hardy. They haven't contacted him about the last complaint, and the last complaint that was confirmed was the 15th of December 2023. There's been no other complaints that have been made. And of that single complaint made nearly 10 months ago, they haven't told him about it, and there hasn't been any other previous incidences, and they haven't communicated with him. They haven't asked him, what systems do you have in place? What are you doing? To be quite frank with you, this isn't a premises that is at risk from having excessively loud patrons. It's not a premises that is seeking to become a nuisance. They have made investment. There is a separate car park to alleviate that public nuisance concern that can be incorporated as part of the license conditions, along with the issues in respect to the issues in respect to the noise levels, with a sound limiter condition, with a patron conditions, taking hourly readings. The only difference would be that it would be an expectation of the applicant to invest in a machine to record the reading of the sound, while there's no expectation of the local authority to use any objective measurement, simply the ears of the people that are there. And the ears of the people that are there are not going inside the premises, because they're saying that the premises license holder has caused an assault. The reality is, if there was crime and disorder concerns of the applicant, the police, specifically the police, and the local officer would have made an objection. And I'm sure you're all aware with the provisions under Section 18 of the Licensing Act, that if there was a concern about the premises license holder specifically, there would also be objections from the health and safety team. There'd be objections from the licensing department. And more concerning, I think, is that it is said that there is concerns, or insinuated that there are concerns, from the hospital or from the local residents. But what we've heard today is that there's been no complaint lodged. about Mr. Hardy's operation. There's been no complaint communicated to him. There's been no attempt to communicate with him. In fact, what he's offering is communication. It's for them to be involved in setting the time. It's for them to do quite a lot of things. And I would submit that the questions of Councillor Jamu and Councillor Balkini make it clear for an individual that really has not had any engagement with the local authority seems to be having a lot of representations that are unsupported. And the representations, I have to say on his behalf, because it's not a nice thing to say, my staff are too afraid to visit your premises because we think you're going to get assaulted. You're going to assault them like you assaulted somebody else.
This is a summing up, Mr. Al-Hani, so short summing up, please.
I mean, those are the conditions, and more substantially is the fact that on top of the public nuisance conditions, the applicant is also willing to reduce every single timing by half an hour. It allows for the provision of religious events. It allows for the provision of ensuring that his business needs are met as well. Unless I can assist the bench any further, I kindly ask that you do grant the conditions, along with that minor variation that the chair has requested in respect of the and/or performance of dancing, the request of the half an hour to be reduced, and the sound limiting and sound provisions to be introduced as well. I'm grateful.
Thank you. Thank you. We've come to the end of the hearing. Before we go to deliberations, I just want to clarify the applicant has offered to these conditions, which are setting up of a sound limiter, providing applicant's phone number, and amending the one of the licensing request about provision of anything of similar description to live music, recorded music, or performance of dance to just dance and live music. And also agreed to reduce the hours to 1:30 a.m. Of the licensable activities. There are also conditions that are offered by the responsible authority, and they would have been sent via email to the democratic officer, who will forward to all parties. Now, before we retire, Ms. Zeb, is there any clarification you need, or we are all fine?
No, can we just check, Zainab, have you received the conditions from Mr. Crook?
I'll just check now.
Mr. Cook, have you sent email of those conditions?
I've just got them.
Yes,
now.
I did send.
And you got them, yeah. So you can circulate.
Yeah.
Now, Zaina, is there any clarification you need, or you are fine?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay, in that case, we are going to retire, and I am anticipating that we will be able to come back at 2:30. 2:30 should be fine, Ms. Zeb?
Chair, it's a matter for you.
Yeah, I think 2:30 should be fine. It says 1:15, so we will announce the decision. Yes, Ms. Barkin.
Yeah, can we come back a bit earlier, because I've got other engagements.
Let's make it 2 o'clock.
Yes.
And then if we can't make it by 2 o'clock, then we can notify. So we will come back at 2 o'clock and announce the decision. Thank you. You can leave now, those who are well.
Thank you, Chair.
You can